Welcome to Home Care Business Insights, your go-to resource for exploring the many aspects of running a successful home care business. Whether you're an industry pro, new entrepreneur, or just curious about the industry, this podcast offers strategies, tips, and solutions to help you succeed. While AI-generated voices host the episodes, the insights are real and designed with your growth in mind. Let's dive into what matters most in building a thriving home care business. Now let's hear from our AI hosts.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission here is, well, it's pretty simple. We tear into the blueprints of business success to pull out the things you really need to know.
Right, the actionable stuff.
Exactly. So you can walk away ready to make a move. And today, we're doing one of our most important deep dives yet, and it's really tailored for you, the person thinking about becoming a franchise owner, especially in the world of senior home care.
That's right. And if you're evaluating that next step in your career, maybe coming out of a corporate job or the military, or even just looking to add to your business portfolio, today isn't about the market stats.
No.
Today is about looking inward. We're going to unpack what we call the franchisee success profile. We're going to dissect the core traits that really define those top-performing owners in a business like home care, which is, very high touch.
And highly regulated. This isn't just generic advice from some seminar. We really want to help you figure out if you are, let's say, structurally and emotionally wired for franchising.
And specifically for care franchising.
Right. We've synthesized years of performance data from right here at Caring Senior Service to really isolate 5 core qualities. They're often intangible, but they're what separate the owners who just get by from the ones who truly, truly flourish.
I think it's important to set the stage right away.
Yeah.
The foundational concept here is that franchising is not a magic bullet. It's not passive.
Not at all.
It's an incredibly powerful path to owning a business, for sure. It gives you a brand, system, support, but at its core, it's a high-stakes partnership. And the success of that partnership, well, it hinges completely on your mindset, your effort, and how well you fit within that system.
Absolutely. The brand framework, that's the engine. It's been tested. It's been refined across, hundreds of territories.
Right.
But you are the driver.
You're the driver, you're the mechanic, the chief strategist for your own local turf.
Yep. So we've pulled together what we think is an essential blueprint for self-evaluation. We're going to cover 5 distinct signs or traits that we see in our top performers, and we'll break them down into 3 parts. First, the operational fit, then leadership, and finally, what really keeps you going in the long run.
Yeah, the sustaining force. So let's start with that first most common friction point, the relationship between an entrepreneur's spirit and a required system. How do you interact with the very blueprint you're paying for?
Okay, let's jump right into that. The fundamental reality of buying a franchise is you are buying a system that works, which brings us to trait number 1. You value structure and know how to work within it.
This is honestly where we see a lot of very independent-minded people stumble, especially if they're coming from a job where they had, total autonomy to do whatever they wanted.
Right, the lone wolf type.
Exactly. Successful franchisees, they genuinely appreciate having a tested blueprint. They don't look at the operations manual or the required software as a constraint. They see it as freedom.
Freedom from risk, right.
Freedom from risk and freedom from guesswork. That's the huge mindset shift. You aren't paying a franchise fee to go and build every single policy and pricing model from scratch.
We use this analogy all the time. It's not about reinventing the wheel. If you spend your first 6 months trying to build a better wheel, you're just proving what the franchisor already proved, maybe 20 years ago. You're wasting your most valuable resource time.
Precisely. The successful owner says, great, thanks for the perfect wheel. Now I can put all my energy into making this thing roll faster and smoother in my local market. Just think about the sheer number of things you have to manage in a home care business. You have caregiver schedules, client intake, state compliance, quality of service.
Oh, the compliance alone. If you had to build, say, the high pay documentation and the employee contracts from absolute scratch.
You'd need a team of lawyers.
Yeah.
It would take years, cost a fortune, and you'd be exposed to so much liability.
Yeah.
The structure it bypasses all of that.
So when we say structure, we're talking about tangible things.
Very tangible. We're talking about proprietary software that's built specifically for the complexities of scheduling in senior care. Handling different shift lengths, caregiver certifications, travel times.
Okay.
We're talking about pre-vetted legal templates that are ready for a state audit on day 1. If you're someone who just prefers clear guidelines over constant, exhausting guesswork, then you are already aligned with this model.
And in home care, the stakes are just so high. Consistency isn't just about making your life easier, it's about client safety. It's about brand integrity.
It's everything.
If every single franchise owner made up their own rules for background checks or emergency protocols,
The whole brand would crumble instantly. When a family hires a national brand like Caring Senior Service, they're buying an expectation of quality,
yeah.
of reliability. The structure is what guarantees that experience is the same in Austin as it is in Boston.
Okay, so here's the counter argument I always hear. People think, well, if I just follow a rule book, that means I can't be creative. I'm not a real entrepreneur.
That is the biggest myth about franchising we have to bust. The highest performers we see are incredibly creative people.
But they channel it differently.
They channel it strategically. They're not wasting their creative energy trying to figure out a better way to do payroll. The franchise gives them that.
So instead of the operational nuts and bolts, they're getting creative with what?
With growth, with local market development. Maybe they forge a unique partnership with a local VA. Or they design a really clever staff retention program that speaks directly to caregivers in their community. They're building on top of that solid foundation, which frees them up to focus on the people side of the business.
And the people side is everything in home care.
It is the ultimate differentiator.
That's a perfect transition. Because if you're building on that foundation and focusing on people, you have to be willing to learn from others. And that takes us right to our second trait. You're coachable and open to feedback.
This one is maybe the clearest indicator of how fast a new owner is going to scale their business.
Really? That fast?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
As a franchisor, we invest a ton of money into support teams, into training, into coaching. That's a huge part of the value you're buying into. The top performers don't see that support as, someone checking up on them.
Or as a sign they're failing.
Right. They see it as a force multiplier for their business.
It does take a certain amount of humility, though. It's the difference between just hearing advice and actually doing it, especially if it challenges how you've always done things.
That's it. Exactly. If you were a senior VP at some big corporation, you might think you know everything about managing people. But the franchise has data from hundreds of locations. They know which interview questions actually predict a good caregiver, or which bonus structure reduces turnover by 5%.
And resisting that tested advice, especially in that first year or two.
It's deadly. It really is. The coachable owner gets that the franchise leadership has this huge 30,000-foot view. They see the patterns. They know the common mistakes before you even make them.
So let me throw a scenario at you. Let's say I'm a successful franchisee. I'm 6 years in, my business is doing great, and now corporate says I have to switch to some new expensive scheduling software. But my old system works fine. How does a coachable owner handle that friction?
That's a great, realistic question. The coachable owner grumbles a bit, probably.
Probably.
But they still do it, and here's why. They understand the systemic value. That new software, it probably has critical compliance updates baked in, or it allows for better data analysis at the national level, which helps everyone with marketing.
I see.
They get that their success is tied to the success of the entire brand. Protecting a whole system protects their investment in the long run. It's about system optimization over just individual efficiency.
Okay, that makes sense. So being coachable isn't just about the beginning.
Not at all. It's also about proactively asking for help. If you hit a roadblock, and you will, the worst thing you can do is try to power through it alone.
Give us a concrete home care example of that.
Okay, recruiting. It's the biggest challenge for everyone right now. You can't find enough qualified caregivers. The uncoachable owner just complains about the labor market.
Right. Nobody wants to work.
The coachable owner immediately calls their support coach and asks 3 very specific questions. What's working right now in markets that look like mine? What's the national benchmark for time to hire so I know if I'm slow? And is my pay package actually competitive based on the data you're seeing everywhere else?
They're tapping into that hive mind, turning a local problem into a nationally informed solution.
That is the key. Resisting support isn't being independent, it's just slowing yourself down. The fastest growth always happens when you value the model. That's trait 1, and you're completely open to being coached on how to run it. Trait 2, that's how you get operational excellence.
Okay, so we've established the importance of using the system, but the system doesn't run itself. Franchising, and especially home care, it needs a strong leader at the helm.
Right. The system is the playbook, but the franchisee is the quarterback on the field making calls in real time.
That brings us directly to trait number 3. You can make decisions with confidence. You have support, sure, but when a crisis hits at 8 p.m. on a Friday, there's no committee to vote on what to do. The buck stops with you.
And we have to stress why this is so critical in home care. This business creates pressure daily, sometimes hourly.
Let's do a pressure test. Give us a scenario.
Okay, it's 6:30 in the morning. Your on-call scheduler gets a text. The caregiver for an 8 a.m. shift with a client who can't get out of bed alone has called out sick. What do? Or a client's daughter calls you frantic, saying something seems wrong. Or you find out a new competitor just opened up down the street and is offering $1 more per hour, and your best caregivers are getting texts. If you freeze, if you hesitate, the whole thing falls apart. The client is at risk.
And this is where it goes beyond just following the manual. The system gives you a ton of data, right? Staffing numbers, client satisfaction scores, leads in the pipeline.
A fire hose of data.
But you have to be the one to look at that data and turn it into a decision, an action.
Evaluation without action is it's a hobby.
Right.
The best owners we see, they'll look at a report and see that referrals from a certain hospital have dropped by 50%. They don't just file the report, they immediately decide on a plan. Okay, I'm personally visiting the discharge planner tomorrow morning. We're sending them a gift basket. I'm calling a meeting with my marketing person. They execute. They don't wait.
Because the cost of waiting in this business is just huge.
It's massive.
Yes.
If you delay hiring someone, your current staff gets burned out covering shifts. If you delay matching a wage increase from a competitor, you lose your best people. It's that simple.
And there's a certain comfort level you have to have with being the one to make the final call.
Yes, you can and should consult your team, call your franchise coach. But in the end, the decision and the risk that comes with it, that's yours. It takes a lot of self-assurance.
But what's the balance there? How do you stay decisive without becoming reckless? I imagine a new franchisee is terrified of making a huge financial mistake because they move too fast.
That's a great point and a very real fear. And the best owners are not reckless. They are diligent. They use the data and the systems they've been given. But they also accept a fundamental business truth. Perfect conditions do not exist.
We'll never have 100% of the information.
And never. If you wait for 100% certainty, you'll miss the opportunity entirely. Confident decision-making means knowing when you have enough information, maybe it's 70 or 80%, to make a call, and trusting that the system has guardrails to help you correct your course if you need to.
So it's about calculated risks, not just blind leaps.
Exactly. Delay often comes from a fear of being wrong. But in home care, delay can mean a senior doesn't get their medication on time. The risk of inaction is almost always greater than the risk of a well-informed action.
You have to be that steady hand, that absorbing the pressure and turning it into a clear plan for your team. This quality, this decisiveness, it leads us right into the foundation for it, which is trait number 5. You're ready to take responsibility for your success.
Yes, this is the ownership mindset in its purest form. It's a deep, gut-level understanding that the brand provides the tools, the support, the roadmap, but the results, the financial success, the reputation in your town, that comes only from your effort, your drive.
This is that classic split between a proactive and a reactive owner.
It is. The reactive owner waits. They wait for marketing to send them leads. They wait for the phone to ring. They wait for the perfect employee to magically apply.
And the proactive owner?
The proactive owner makes things happen. They don't just wait for hospital referrals. They're out there building personal relationships with the hospital discharge planners. They're sponsoring the local senior center's pancake breakfast. They're making sure their service is so good that every client family becomes a source of referrals. They see their territory as their kingdom to build.
And self-accountability is huge here. Let's say your numbers are lagging. Your caregiver turnover is higher than the national average.
The owner who is wired for success does not blame the system. They don't blame the economy or the labor market.
They look in the mirror.
They look in the mirror and they ask hard questions. What part of the training did I not implement correctly? Where am I dropping the ball on the proven process? Am I truly leading my team effectively? They hold themselves accountable for everything, good and bad.
This also means you have to see challenges not as roadblocks, but just as part of the business.
It's just part of the landscape. Staffing will be hard. Regulations will change. Client situations will get complicated. The reactive owner sees these as excuses for poor performance. The proactive, responsible owner sees a staffing shortage as a signal to get more creative with their recruiting, to double down on their retention efforts, to go back to the system and ask their coach, what am I missing?
So responsibility is really the engine that makes you use all the other tools. You can have the best hammer and blueprints in the world, but if you don't take the responsibility to actually pick it up and swing it every day.
It's a perfect analogy. The building doesn't build itself. That sense of responsibility is what drives every other trait. Without it, You won't fully use the structure. You won't be open to coaching because it will feel like criticism, and you'll be too afraid to make confident decisions. It's the motor.
Okay, these leadership traits are clearly essential for just getting the business off the ground and growing it, but this is a tough industry. It's emotionally taxing. What stops a great owner from just burning out after a few years?
Now we get to the core, the sustaining force.
That leads us to what might be the single most important trait of all in home care. It's motivation by purpose.
Yeah. In the world of franchising, you can sell burgers, you can change oil, you can do a million things to make a profit. But when you choose senior home care, your motivation has to go deeper. Which brings us to trait number 4. You're motivated by purpose, not just profit.
And this isn't just a feel-good, fluffy statement. We see this as a hard business reality in our industry. Profit is essential, obviously. You have to be profitable to stay in business and pay your people well. But passion, mission, that's the only thing that sustains you for the long haul in this business. Pure profit motive just isn't enough fuel to get you through the tough times.
It's totally insufficient.
Yeah.
If your only goal is financial, you will burn out, I guarantee it. It'll happen the first time you have a major staffing crisis that lasts for months. Or when you're dealing with a really complex end-of-life care situation with a family. Purpose is the fuel that lets you push through that emotional and operational difficulty and still come to work fired up the next day.
So let's connect that directly to business success. How does having a mission, a desire to serve, actually make my business more profitable?
It directly impacts the 2 most important things in your business,
Mm-hmm.
your staff and your reputation.
Okay, break that down.
Let's start with staffing and retention. It's the #1 challenge in home care right now. An owner who is only focused on the bottom line sees their caregivers as an expense, a line on a spreadsheet. So they cut corners on training, on support, on pay.
Which, of course, makes the caregivers feel devalued, so they leave. Which means you're constantly spending money to recruit new people. It's a vicious cycle.
A profit-draining cycle, exactly. But an owner driven by purpose sees their caregivers as skilled professionals doing essential work. They create a culture where that work feels meaningful. They invest in better training, better support, better pay, and that investment drastically lowers their turnover costs and improves the quality of care.
So purpose leads directly to a more stable workforce. And a stable workforce is probably the biggest competitive advantage you can have in this industry.
It is the advantage. You cannot deliver consistent quality care if your team is a revolving door. And that stability directly feeds the second piece, your reputation and your referrals.
The people who send you business.
Yes. The hospital discharge planners, the doctors, the social workers. An owner who is just trying to sell hours of care comes across as transactional. An owner driven by a mission to serve the community builds deep, trusting relationships.
And those referral sources can smell the difference a mile away. They're not going to send their most vulnerable patients to an agency they think is just trying to make a quick buck.
Never. They send them to the owner they trust. The one whose reputation is built on reliability and genuine compassion. That word-of-mouth reputation, driven by purpose, brings in better clients, more consistent referrals, and a much higher lifetime value per client.
So it's not enough to just say you like helping people. The best owners, what they do is they bake that mission into the very operations of the business. Every policy, every hiring decision reflects that purpose.
That's it. That purpose is what gives them the strength to make the tough, responsible decisions. When they have to navigate a really difficult situation, the question isn't what's cheapest. The question is what's best for the client's well-being and dignity.
So let's bring it all together. Let's synthesize this, because purpose isn't a standalone trait. It interacts with all the others.
It's the glue. Or maybe the lubricant that makes the whole engine run smoothly. Think about it. Purpose is what fuels the relentless effort you need for trait 5, responsibility. If your why is strong enough, you're willing to put in the grueling hours.
And how does it connect to structure and coachability?
It elevates them. Suddenly following the structure. Trait 1 isn't just busy work. It's the proven path to delivering higher quality, safer care. And purpose makes you intensely coachable. Trait 2, because your ego takes a back seat. The goal isn't to be right. The goal is to provide the best possible care for your clients. You're hungry for any advice that helps you do that better.
And for decisiveness, trait 3.
It makes sure your decisions are client-centered. You make the hard call on staffing, not just to save a few bucks, but to ensure that Mrs. Smith has the consistent care she needs to stay safely in her home. It reframes everything. The operational traits are the how, but purpose is the why. And in this business, the why is what gets you through the day and builds a legacy.
Wow. This has been an incredibly detailed look into the mindset you need for this. As we wrap up this deep dive, let's do a quick recap of these 5 non-negotiable traits.
Yeah, let's nail them down. We started with the foundation. First, you value structure. You want the refined playbook, not the blank page. And second, you are coachable, seeing support as a tool to accelerate your growth.
Then we moved into leadership. Third, you're a decisive leader. You can take in the data, make a confident call under pressure, and move forward. And underpinning that is number 5. You take full responsibility for your own success. You're proactive, not reactive.
And tying it all together, the sustaining force that is so essential in senior care. Fourth, you are motivated by purpose, not just profit. You're driven by a mission to serve your community, and that infuses everything you do.
So what does this all boil down to for you, the person listening and thinking about this? I think the key takeaway is that franchising is a true partnership. It is demanding. And success really only comes to those who bring these traits to the table and then just relentlessly use the framework that the franchise provides.
And for our final provocative thought for you to take with you, don't just sit there and check the boxes for the traits you think you already have. That's the easy part. Challenge yourself to identify the one single trait. Is it valuing structure, being coachable, being decisive, purpose or responsibility? Which one would you need to consciously work on the most in that transition from what you're doing now to being a franchise owner?
Is it learning to let go and not reinvent the wheel? Is it quieting your ego enough to take advice on something you think you're already an expert in? Is it finding the confidence to be the final word in a crisis?
Identifying that one area for growth and making a real plan to strengthen it, that is the fastest way to turn your potential into a truly successful home care business. We really hope this blueprint helps you assess if you're ready for that vital next step.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into what it really takes to succeed. We'll catch you next time.